Deadlock's matchmaking update is finally here, and it came with a new ranked mode, casual mode, and a bunch of other changes. And if you want to know what's in it, well, I already have a video talking about that. And the update has generally been received alright, although there are definitely some criticisms that have been shared throughout the community. And today, I want to talk about this brand new matchmaking update, the ranked mode, the casual mode, and address a lot of the criticisms of these new features, to just say whether I agree with them, how much I agree or disagree with them, because there is a lot to talk about, and we've had a couple of days to experience the update now. And my perspective when looking at this new system is coming from someone who reached Eternus 4 in the previous system, so I wasn't quite the ultimate best of the best Eternus 6, but I was still, an Eternus player pretty deep into Eternus. And I also am someone who now is, pretty competitively minded. I enjoy playing ranked, and I enjoy ranking up. Wasn't always the case, funnily enough. Deadlock having casuals and ranked be the same mode for so long has actually made me a lot more accustomed to ranked and a lot more, warmed up to it, I guess, because previously I would treat ranked and competitive modes way too seriously, and I was almost scared to queue them, so yeah. That was actually one of the weird perks of the old system, but that's kind of the lens I'm looking at this through. And so far, I have completed my placements. I placed in Oracle 4, which seems to be about on par with what everybody has been placing at a similar rank to where I was previously. And I also played one match of regular ranked after my placements before deciding to call it quits and moving on to just to try a little bit of casuals off stream, though. And, well, one thing I immediately noticed about this update is that for some reason, it's just made the game way harder for me. Because I've made it a point to actually ask all the people in almost every single match I've played what rank they were previously before the update, and I've been getting a lot of Eternus 5 and a lot of Eternus 6 players in my matches, even in casuals, not just ranked. And in 2 of my matches, I even had low main, who's way better at the game than me. Eternus 6 player who's cracked out of his mind compared to my level of gameplay. It's crazy how big of a gap there is just between those 2 divisions in Eternus. So yeah, I don't know exactly what is causing that. It could be just that a lot of Eternus 5 and Eternus 6 players have come back to the game now that the ranked system is here, and I'm just, getting unlucky experiencing a lot of those in my games. But it could also be something weird to do with the soft ELO reset, where perhaps everybody who was Eternus 6 and Eternus 4 are now much closer in terms of the ELO behind the scenes. I have no idea, but I'm curious if anyone else has experienced this, where, yeah, I'm having to sweat in every single one of my matches because we've got Eternus 6 players on both teams. Man, it's crazy. And I have to say, I really appreciate how transparent Valve is being with this new system. You get to see exactly how many ranked points you win or lose, depending on your match. You get to see the buffer games before you derank out of a particular division. All of that is really great. That transparency makes it feel like a much more fair system, and it clears up a lot of the mystery surrounding this game. And also, I do like that it shows you the ranks of the other people in your matches. I haven't had any toxicity related to that yet, although, now that I've said that, it'll probably manifest. People will be like, oh, great, AndrewChicken's in my match, he's only Oracle 4, or something like that, and it'll be like, oh, okay, wow, it's weird. Why are we doing this? So yeah, at least from a transparency point of view, this has been absolutely fantastic. But now, let's get to the common criticisms that I've seen of this new ranked system. So first of all, I've had a lot of people come to me in my stream chat and in the comment sections of my videos talking about how the new ranked requirements are far too strict. So if you didn't know, you need to have at least 60 wins on your account and 15 wins on at least 3 different characters in order to actually qualify for ranked. Now, these requirements are put into place to try and do a couple of things. First of all, they want to make sure that ranked is actually a competitive experience, where people have an idea of what they're doing. And, well, having 15 matches on a character proves that you've played them enough to at least have a little bit of an idea of what you're doing, regardless of how good or bad you actually are at that character. You have the fundamentals down. And also, this is a system to slow down or hopefully prevent smurfs and cheaters from entering the ranked pool, because if you put a steep enough requirement, it's going to take a long time to grind a smurf account or a cheater account to actually finally get into ranked. And so hopefully by that point, any cheaters will have just been caught in casuals and they won't even enter ranked. And, well, Smurfs, they'll have to put up a lot of dedication, and by that point, maybe their elo and casuals will be inflated to the point that when they finally enter ranked, they're not actually that far behind where they would be in their regular main account. But where this really has drawn some criticism is from the people who play a lot of Deadlock, but they still don't actually meet these requirements, or people who simply think that even though the requirements are good, they're still too high. So, for example, some one-trick ponies might fulfill the 60 wins on their account requirement, and their one character will have 15 wins, but then they won't have enough wins on other characters in the roster to actually queue for ranked, because you need 3 characters minimum to queue for ranked. And there are some people who just don't get to play that much Deadlock, who, don't have as many hours as are required to have this many wins, who want to play ranked, but now find that they can't. And while I understand where these criticisms are coming from, this is actually a point where I find myself actually agreeing with Valve's requirements here. If you sit down and briefly do some math to try and work out how much time you're going to need to spend to get into ranked, well, if each match takes about 30 to 40 minutes and you have to get 15 wins on 3 different characters, then it'll take about 8 to 10 hours, give or take, per character, including queue times as well, which is not terrible. Like, if you're enjoying your character and you're playing them a lot, you'll reach that no problem. And this is a qualifier to play ranked, which is supposed to be a super competitive mode. Nothing's stopping you from queuing regular standard games, and you don't have to queue ranked in this game, especially not when you are as inexperienced as someone would be if they only have, 8 or 10 games under their belt with a certain character. Now, one could make the argument to lower the threshold to 10 wins per character and 40 wins on your total account, or something like that. And then, if someone is still inexperienced at that point, they'll just be in a low rank. And, maybe that's fair, but at the same time, if you do lower the thresholds, it will increase the chances of Smurfs and cheaters entering ranked, so it's a tricky thing to balance. But I do think having these thresholds on ranked is overall a good thing. It's just going to take some getting used to, especially because everyone's been so used to ranked just being the main mode where your rank is constantly going up and down from match number 1. The next major criticism I've seen is to the party system, or rather, the fact that you simply can't party in ranked. You are only allowed to either solo queue or duo queue. And even still, you can't duo queue during your calibration matches, so you've just got to solo queue 8 games before you finally get to play with one other person, and this is for all ranks, not just Eternus. Now this is, once again, another double-edged sword when it comes to ranked, because, well, you could have situations arise where a 6 stack is going up against a bunch of solo queue players, or just a pair of duos or something like that, and that's inherently going to be unfair because the 6 stack is going to have far better coordination than the random players who have never even met before. So I understand why they put this limitation on matchmaking, but there is another very good counter-argument, and that is the fact that you could design a system where people are allowed to 6 stack, or 5 stack, or whatever, and they'll just try to place 6 stacks up against other 6 stacks, and with enough players in the queue, yeah, you're still going to have longer queue times if you choose to queue in a 6 stack, but you should still be able to find games where 6 stacks can go against other 6 stacks. And in a competitive setting, having 2 6 stacks fighting each other is literally as competitive as it is possible to get, because you have 2 full teams of people coordinating with each other to try and win the game, and that is competitive integrity at its purest. Now, Valve said themselves that this might be a little too strict and that they're, looking to tweak it as time goes on and based on community feedback, and so this will probably change in the future, but for now it is probably a little bit too strict. I will agree with the community on that. I think especially, in the medium to low ranks, like allowing more people to party up, it probably won't break things too much, and allowing people to play with their friends is definitely a good thing. That's one of the best parts of gaming, and this system restricts that. Next, let's talk about the draft, or lack thereof. Instead of a draft this update, we got a really strange system where you're allowed, once you load into the match, to switch to another character only once, and only if no one else in the lobby has selected that character, and you can see the other people on your team changing their characters if they choose to do that, but you can't see if the enemies are doing that. And if you try to switch to a character that the enemy has already switched to first, then it'll just give you an error, and it's kind of weird, and I don't know. I don't feel like it's particularly great. Now, I watched one of Deathy's recent videos talking about how a draft isn't actually as necessary as a lot of people think it is, and he made some good points, talking about how, most of the time people won't really be able to make that much better of a team comp than what the matchmaker already does, especially now that Valve has tried to improve the team composition creator in the matchmaker. And, that's a fair enough point, but in a competitive mode, it does definitely feel like you have more agency and control over whether you win the match if there is a full draft in place and not just this weird half measure. This weird half measure also, in my opinion, just isn't, super helpful. I haven't even used it yet. Most of the time I just load into the match, I get the character that I wanted to play, and then I just play that character, and so it feels kind of redundant. And I haven't really seen too many other people using this either. So it just seems like, it's not giving the draft people what they want because it's not a full draft, but it's also not adding too much to the old system that was already in place. And the old system was already fine, and I guess, having this isn't hurting it too much, but it doesn't really feel like it's hit the mark, in my opinion. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is the matchmaking. We knew matchmaking was going to be a little rough going into this, and indeed it has been kind of rough. As I spoke about earlier, the game has just been throwing me into matches with people far more skilled than me and people who I was not encountering previously in my Eternus 4, Eternus 3 level lobbies. So, that's been a little wacky. And, matches have kind of felt all over the place in terms of their quality. I've had some great matches, I've had some stomps. It's been a little weird. And I do think that things are going to get better over the next couple of weeks. A volatile change such as this is naturally going to create some very wacky matchmaking, and so, if you feel the need to complain about matchmaking right now, maybe hold your tongue just for a little bit, because, there's nothing they can do to even make matchmaking particularly good right now. They did a full reset, and we need time to just shake things out and get everybody back to where they are supposed to be. But it seems like that is going to take a while, because to grind your way back up to Eternus from Oracle 6 seems like it's going to take you a very, very long time, especially if you're only, hitting like a 60, 55% win rate, something like that, which is not unreasonable. That's what most people have. So I don't know if people have even gotten to Eternus yet as I record this. Certainly, if someone has gotten there, there are very few people up there right now. And, one could maybe make the argument that it's going to take a little bit too long to get back up to Eternus, especially if we have to do this every single season. That is a very long grind for a lot of people. You want to talk about, people needing to spend way too much time on Deadlock? It's not the ranked requirements, it's getting up to Eternus. That's going to take absolutely ages. Especially if you have aspirations to reach Eternus, but you're not someone who previously was in Eternus. You're starting from, Archon, Oracle, and you're trying to get up there naturally. Oh my goodness, it might take you multiple seasons. I don't know if that's supposed to be the case. Maybe that's what they intend, but it does seem like that's going to take a very long time. But thankfully, what's not taking a very long time right now are queue times. I was surprised. Queue times actually are not particularly long this patch, at least in my experience. And I do tend to queue at pretty popular times of day, so, maybe in off hours it does still feel, worse compared to before. But at least right now, my queue times have been pretty fast, especially in casuals. And part of the reason why I'm surprised by this is because of something that I do want to bring up here, and that's the fact that now, once again, Valve has subdivided its player base into queues. So when Street Brawl came out, we subdivided the player base between Standard and Street Brawl. And when you divide the players like that, matchmaking in both queues is going to suffer because it doesn't have as many players to choose from. When everybody was queuing in just Standard mode before Street Brawl came out, the matchmaker could choose from every single player that was online to try and make the most accurate match. And now, with Street Brawl and Standard, that got divided into two. And with this new matchmaking update, boom, throw a third one in the middle there. We've got Standard, Street Brawl, and Ranked, and I don't know what the population sizes are for each of these different modes. I imagine the Standard Casual mode might have actually leached some players from Street Brawl, because, you know, Street Brawl is like the most casual game mode in this game, and, you know, for a good while, it was the only way you could play this game without having to worry about your rank going up or down. So, you know, I imagine some people migrated from there over to Standard mode because they wanted to play the regular game in a more casual setting, which is totally fair enough, but I do worry about how that's going to affect matchmaking in the long term. Because, yeah, it just means that there are fewer players to choose from in each mode, and as they continue to add more and more and more modes, well, we'd better hope the player base grows at the same time. We did see a lot of players come back with this matchmaking update, which is pretty good, and hopefully the game will continue to grow from there. I have no doubts that it will. Deadlock is a phenomenal game, and they are absolutely demolishing every single major content update that they release. It's been incredible. But if the player base were ever to decline, then that would be a very big problem for the matchmaking with these queues being separated, and I guess maybe looking forward to if this game were to ever start dying in like 10 years' time, maybe we'll go back to a single queue system, but at least for now, you know, it's probably fine. Anyways, what do you guys think about this matchmaking update? Let me know in the comments section down below. This has been a very interesting update for me to play, and I look forward to continuing to grind on Ranked. And if you want to watch me do that live, I live stream right here on YouTube and also on Twitch, so make sure to go check those out. Link in the description of the Twitch, and of course, just subscribe here on YouTube, and you can watch the streams nice and easy, just like that. I would really appreciate it. And while you're down there, like this video if you enjoyed, and, subscribe again. So, thank you guys for watching. I will see you all next time. Peace out.